anyways, Saturday, I got 2 new baby pigs that are both little girls, and they're adorable. So it's Sam and Joe, named after the 2 brothers that dropped them off. And Sam loves her belly scratched. She'll just like fall out on the ground when you start scratching her belly. So they're really, really cute and sweet. So yeah.
That's awesome.
That's fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it keeps growing.
His name is Piper. And so Piper actually asked me just recently, she was like, how'd you get my name? There was a guy that I knew from Rhode Island a long time ago, and his name was Piper, and he was a friend of mine. I always liked it, and you know, whatever. But there was a woman that lives in Marin, and probably some of these people, and she had a pig named Piper. And I started talking to her, and she goes, this pig named Piper. So my daughter, who's 13, was like, so pretty much I was named after a pig. And I was like, yeah, I'm Piper Quinn, but really, yeah, a pig. But I love, pigs are supposed to be great.
Yeah.
I love that. I've never been there. I need to go down. I've never been there.
Yeah, growing up as Maggie, everyone in the 80s dog's name was Maggie.
Yeah.
And so I just got, finally went back to Margaret, because I was like, if I have to hear one more person tell me their childhood dog's name is Maggie.
Yeah.
No. So
we have all dog names too. Dog names are good. That means you're friendly. You're happy.
Yeah.
We have Lucy, Bo.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love that.
Meredith, do you want to, should we get started? Should we wait?
Sure. We can start. I can go through just a brief, should we start kind of 1 minute intro on Chequeout. I can't really see. Normally I'm behind the scenes, so now I'm sort of seeing what you're seeing. So I just see William in big lights, big picture. But brief outline, if I don't know how many people on the call are familiar with Chequeout, but we are a mobile platform, and we really sort of bring together a curated network of designers, artists, merchants to a growing group of sort of discerning shoppers. And we do some in-store events, and we do a lot of virtual things. And what's really cool about it is what we do, and it's been terrific in the COVID times, that sort of all the power is in your hand. So you pretty much use your phone to shop. And this is just a great way. It's a direct to kind of, to have William, which is such a huge, and Margaret, who basically put this all together, to have both of these people sort of open up and actually have an interactive discussion with everyone is huge. And it's so cool that this, in COVID times, it's brought everyone together. It's that direct to consumer kind of relationship. And then at the same time, it's kind of this fun time in a way. It's like a game and how you buy things. So we're lucky enough that Margaret and William sort of put together, I think, a collection of 25 pieces. And each of these pieces has a QR code that's kind of affiliated with it. So how this game works is, or this call works, is that these guys will be talking about the pieces that they're displaying, and then we'll show a QR code up on the screen. What you need to do, what you need to understand is, in order to purchase anything, you have to download the Chequeout app on your telephone. You can find it under the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. And if you download the app, you will open it up, and you can say start scanning. And when a code is displayed on the computer, you can actually take your phone onto that code and you can scan it, and it will ask you to enter it into your cart. A couple things, if it goes into your cart or your bag, a lot of this particular call, this collection, are one-offs. There's only one. So he will talk, and William will talk about, he does do some commissions. We can do pieces. If somebody has something they have to have, we can have a conversation about that. But if it's something that you covet and you really want, buy it, and buy it now. The buying process takes seconds. It's actually so fast that you're kind of like, wait, did I really buy anything? But you can use Apple Pay, or you can put a credit card in there, and then you can immediately keep going back to the Zoom call. So once it's in your bag, it doesn't mean it's yours or it's on hold. That's not the way the app works. It pretty much, you have to go through the buying process, and you'll get a email confirmation and everything. I have a couple notes. One, the best thing to do, especially with artwork, is to put your mode on Zoom in speaker view, so that when William's talking about things and Meredith will share the screen and Margaret's talking about things, you'll be able to see. Some of his stuff is so amazing. It's too bad you will sort of put it up to the screen, because there's texture and all the stuff. It's hard to see through the screen. And if you miss something, you can also always go to the Chequeout website, which is www.chequeout.com, CHEQUOUT. Click on William McLure, and you will see all of his things there. Okay, so any problems? Also, lastly, there's a chat feature in Zoom. We've got a couple people here that are watching the chat, so if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. And if you feel the need to speak, this is totally interactive and, you know, and take yourself off mute. We just put everybody on mute so that it stops the sound, and ask questions and have fun, and happy hump day. It's midweek. We're almost there.
Yeah.
Mark.
Great. Thank you,
And
Catherine.
thank you, Margaret.
Yes.
For everything.
So I've done this event as a buyer before when Hudson Grace did it and Found by Maya down the street. And I think what's really important if you want to buy is go ahead and make sure your credit card information is in the app. Because like Catherine said, just because you put it in your cart, you have to go through the process fully in order for it to be yours. So if someone else has it in their cart and they already have their credit card information in, they'll get it over you. So I lost a couple of pieces that I really wanted. So it's not like an auction where the price keeps going up. The price is what it is, but it is first come, first serve. That's what's so fun about it. My name is Margaret Ash. I am an interior designer and opened a retail store and gallery space in November of 2019, right before COVID. And luckily, Catherine has created this platform so shop owners like myself can sell to people all over. You get to see the pieces in live action, which is really great. And I approached William because I am from the South, although our store's in San Francisco, and I do like to have a lot of Southern creatives and artists represented in our store. And I approached William because his pieces are absolutely stunning. I use them for our interior design projects, and he just didn't have representation here, and I knew he would kill it here. So I asked him, and at first he said, well, let's see what your store looks like, because I hadn't opened it yet. And that just tells you he has a very discerning eye. And my inspiration for it weren't good enough. So a year later, he goes, oh, I like you. You're doing good. I like your store. Let's talk about it. So we had a great call. Fell in love immediately with William. And I'm so honored to have his pieces in our store. So this is it. Yeah, I'll let him tell you a little bit about himself.
Okay, my name is William McLure. I live in Birmingham, Alabama. Kind of a Cliff Note quick version. So I have a 4-year degree in interior design and worked for an architecture firm as the designer for 6 years. And this little thing called Instagram came along. And I started posting pictures of my spaces, personal spaces, and people started asking about the art. And in 6 months, I developed a commission list and was painting nights and weekends and made more than my annual salary in that 6-month time frame. So I had to see what this was all about, sent an email, did not go over well, quit my job. And that was 4.5, 5 years ago. I painted all my life, but I never thought I would make money doing it. Starving artist, coin term. And I owe everything to Instagram. So yeah, so I started posting pictures, and I've been doing it for 4.5, 5 years full time. I don't do any interior design anymore. And yeah, so Margaret approached me about carrying, and we want to make sure that it's on brand with our aesthetic. One of my go-to fabrics and patterns is the wallpaper you see on her wall, which is Lee Joffa by Suzanne Reinstein. So I've got 2 sofas in it and 2 chairs, and the whole sofa situation, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 sofa units that work together as a sectional in my TV room, is covered in this fabric. So as soon as I saw this fabric, I was like, done, like sealed the deal. So she has a great way that she pairs modern art with the traditional aspects of design, as wallpaper and furnishings. And that's what I'm doing right now with my own home. So so it worked perfectly. The marriage was perfect. So yeah, so that's all she wrote. Yeah.
Lovely. Thanks, William. So if everyone has the app and feels confident about it, we will dive right in.
Perfect.
We're actually going to start with this piece. So we have paper pieces, and then we have 2 framed pieces. And actually, I'll bring this closer so you can see that all of the options are going to have the option to be framed. You can add it at the end. This is the first frame option, which is kind of a whitewash with a silver leaf and some oxblood undertones. And we did that for this painting in particular because of the oxblood in the painting. But we have two neutral frames, a white one and then a black with gold. So white with silver, black with gold leaf. And yeah, this was one of my favorites. So I went ahead and framed it because I love it so much. But I will let William tell you a little bit. And sorry, we do.
Yeah, I was gonna say the ring is the light.
Let's turn the ring on for a little bit.
The ring's not included.
That's to make us look so beautiful. So yeah, William, I'll let you talk a little bit about this.
So you mentioned pulling the oxblood. So when I was in high school, I actually worked at a frame shop for 4 years. So that's exactly what we would do at the frame shop, is trying to pull some of that color from the piece into the frame itself, so it marries the two together really well. So you're on point with that, and the frame's really beautiful. I love that little fillet of silver that runs around the edge of it. It kind of pulls the gray out of the painting as well. So yeah, so this is, when I do these paper pieces, it's basically a way for me to be creative. The bulk of our work is done commission based, which can be a little bit exhausting sometimes, because you're not able to be as creative as possible because you're using someone's direction, a designer or a homeowner. So that's what these paper pieces are all about. It's all about being creative and using colors and brush strokes. So this one is about, obviously, the thickness of the paint. So you'll see where I use the oil-based paint with a huge brush. So there's a lot of relief on the piece. And then you can see where it kind of bleeds off a little bit. I love these little pops of color that run through it. So some of the things that you'll see throughout these pieces are this Eve's Climb blue that's in the top right-hand corner. And then also another popular color that I use is this Indian yellow that's in the bottom left corner. Understanding where your negative and positive space is kind of like walking into a room, knowing where your sofa is, where you can take your breaths of air, your negative space. So having to do that in art is equally as important. And you'll see the negative space falls at the bottom left-hand corner. But what I'm really into right now is the texture. And I use a lot of these picture lights that are from houseoftroy.com, and they wash over the painting at night. And so you get this textural thing that happens. And why this is so important is because when people walk through your house, it almost engages people to want to get up close to it and check it out and say, what's happening here? Why is this so interesting? Where are these shadows? What's creating them? And that's pretty much what a lot of these pieces are about. So the shadow and the texture that happens on them, I think that's equally as important as the content.
Well, we have to have you stop talking. It's sold.
That was quick. Sorry, Margaret. It's gone.
That's the problem with being Vanna White. I'm like, hold on.
I was like, there's no way the first one would sell. And my birthday's next week, and my husband was supposed to buy it. So anyway, okay.
And by the way, that one, the lucky person who did get it, maybe it was your husband. That it said on there that it was unframed, but it is framed for that price. Yeah. This is
okay. So the next couple ones are this series that William did with multimedia, and it's really interesting. You know, we saw these, and you know, he is very upfront about how he does things. And so I loved when William was telling us about the process and why he started with the corrugated cardboard. So I'll show you some detail of this texture and let William take it over.
Yeah, this is really pretty at night. So one of the popular pieces that I do is this wash background, and it has a white paint splotch in it, and then it has this very graphic, structured black shape on it. And that black shape is this corrugated cardboard, which I use Gorilla Glue to adhere it long-term to the painting. But I did this because I started using these picture lights, because interiors are so important to get. There's different aspects that come together to marry a room together to make it a great design. And I think layering your lighting throughout the room is so important. So a lot of people forget to really well light their art. And I use these picture lights because it just adds another element to the room. I don't like a bunch of lights in the ceiling. I like some lamps and some swing arm lamps and some picture lights and some candle light, and then light from outside, things like that come together to marry it together. And so I use this corrugated cardboard because typically what I do when I frame these is I frame them on a little bit of, foam core that rises it up a little bit, so you get this shadow reveal that runs around the piece of art itself. And then it's usually in a picture box or something like that. And so when you get this picture light above it, the way that I stacked this corrugated cardboard on top of the fact that it's got these ripples in it, does this shadow effect that runs across the surface towards the bottom, and just, again, engages the viewer to come over, check it out, what's happening here, why is the shadow happening? It gives it another level of interest instead of it just being a watercolor on a piece of paper. So yeah, and it goes from obviously large to small at the bottom. Just trying to make stuff interesting, just trying to think outside the box. I do a lot of my own art in my own home, so I try to flesh it out so everything is not so matchy-matchy. You want your art and your interiors to not be so matchy-matchy, so it looks like it's collected over the course of time. So when I do these pieces, I try to think outside of the box from one piece to the next so they're not all the same.
Love that. So here's another multimedia piece that I also love, and I love how you, it's different than the other, but you've kind of created a puzzle element.
Yeah, it's like a puzzle on a puzzle. So what happens with these is I create the piece of art, I cut it down, and then I glue the pieces on top of it. And then on top of that piece of art, I cut it out and then reapply it to these pieces of paper. Now, I'll talk about the color of the paper that I use. I use these like sepia tones, these tans, these off-white background colors as the paper, because if you look at old art, paintings or pieces of paper from the 70s, 80s, 60s, it changes over the course of time and gets this warmth to it. And I'm a warm tone person. And so it gives it almost this idea of age that is non-existent, but feeds into the reader that this could be an old piece. I love these sepia tones on the background. So that's why I use them. And then I've cut it apart and then tried to reapply it. Just again, it's about texture, it's about depth, it's about making it more interesting, engaging the person to come up to it. So it's not just a flat shape. I just try to make it more interesting. So it looks like a piece of sculpture.
I think, honestly, all of the background paper that you've done, if you are going to put it in on a white wall or in a super modern space like your studio, this again adds another depth value to the piece. So it pops on that white wall and, like you said, has a sculptural element. I think that's.
Yeah. And a lot of these colors go with almost any interior. So there's a longevity to the art that could go in any interior later on.
I love this.
Okay. So this one is super fun. I'll show everyone. It has the background is the cardboard, but then he's done that puzzle element and then thrown in, the iconic Yves Klein blue.
Yeah, about 2 years ago, we moved into a new space and I found a Medusa head sculpture that was off of one of the buildings that they tore down here in Birmingham. And I really got obsessed with this Yves Klein situation. Obviously, I can't afford one. So I got this gouache paint that is this Yves Klein blue and started painting anything around me. And when I do these paintings, I have a paint setup shop in the back. And it's just like all of these different materials. So when I'm in work mode, I'm just grabbing right and left, anything that's around me that inspires me. Obviously, I'd painted the painting in the background that you see that's on the canvas and had my hands covered in it, which usually my steering wheel and car doors are covered in paint as well. And put the hands on there just to make it different and make it a little bit fun, something unexpected from the structure that's happening in the painting. And I think that's important too. A lot of my pieces have a lot of structure in it, like a shape that's bold, and then they have something free form. And so that kind of plays into this as well. But I love the corrugated cardboard on the background used as a mat in this. I
think as a designer, we all, admire Yves Klein, and his color, his Yves Klein blue is just, iconic, whether it's in a super modern space or traditional. I remember, early in my career, I did a house in the Hamptons, and it was, a beachier vibe, but we had a powder room that was all in Yves Klein blue and had little elements of that. And so it is just it's a bold color in itself, and it's bold to add it to things, but also, we have another piece that's, fully Yves Klein blue that we'll show at the end, but I think it is just an iconic element. So I love that.
Yeah. I love them. I love your.
Okay, so William, I saw that my mom just joined the call. Kind of hoping for this to join after this, but we can talk about this one. We had fun talking about it earlier today, so I will let you explain.
Yeah.
Very COVID appropriate.
Yeah.
Comme de
Someday fuck down,
Come
which
get
is
fucked down.
which couldn't be any more appropriate. Exactly.
Yeah. I don't take anything in my life very seriously. I'm not a very serious person in any regard. You can ask Kevin. I mean, I don't even know my login to my bank account, so I don't know what's coming in or out, which can be good or bad. But I don't take anything too seriously, and we get a lot of clients that sometimes are a little bit too serious, and I have to be like, basically this phrase, like, chill out. Like, let's simplify this. We're making it more difficult than it needs to be. So this is kind of a life motto, but it also ties into the fact that I don't want all my art to look the same. I don't want to, you've got to flesh out your interiors. And I think having a sense of humor in art sometimes is a great way to flesh it out. So words sometimes can be very powerful, as well as like the dripping motion that's going on in the background. So you have, you know, it plays into the fact that like there's structure in this painting, but the fact that there's words, but there's also this free form fun aspect with the fact that it's got all these strips that are happening on it, which give it texture and uniform. So that's kind of what this plays into. So, yeah.
I love it. And, you know, I feel like there's just times where you kind of need like a little miniature version of it. So when clients, you know, anyone, you can just be like, hey.
Yeah, I had a dad that wanted to buy this and he had 5 kids and his wife was like, no, we don't need the kids going to like carpool, like saying the bottom word. Like, we're not doing that.
Well, see, my son's only 3.5 and can't read. So I feel like, you know, I can have this for, you know, a couple of years and like
we want a lot of money and you can sell it.
Your you know, in your meditation room when you just need to calm down.
No, this is, I still do. That's the problem with being on the side here. I love this one. And I think it actually just, but it, everything about it. And I think especially in this day and age in everything.
And I also
everybody just take it down.
Yeah. William said, you know, he doesn't speak French, and I took 10 years of French, and I still cannot speak it. And I just attempted, and I still cannot.
Yeah.
I just sound like a Southern woman out of place, you know, Lafayette, Tennessee.
Lafayette, Tennessee. I'm one of it.
Lafayette.
Anyway, I love
Lafayette. Anyways, so this is another piece. I love how you did the cool undertones of grays and whites and blacks on this warm paper, because it adds, you know, a really unexpected dimension to the neutral colors.
Yeah, it almost looks like cursive writing, which I use a lot of that etching in a lot of my art, which plays into the texture, the interest that happens in the painting. So this plays under, when I'm doing these pieces, which are usually 70 pieces at a time, I try to experiment with different things and grab things that are around me. And what this is about is I started using a broom and I would dip it in either oil-based paint or ink and drag it across the painting. And this strié situation started happening, which was so graphic and interesting. And it brought people up to it. And so I started doing that with the pieces of paper as well. So what this is this is an oil base, that's the dark brown background, which is like a Jacobean stain. And then I went over it, or dipped the brush, or it was actually corrugated cardboard. So I would dip it in it and then dip it in the white paint and then drag it across the painting, starting heavier at the left-hand side, and then it would run out on the right. So that's kind of what this is about. It just plays into the texture aspect, just trying something different, something unexpected, fleshing out the series, making sure that it's not just 70 pieces that all look alike. I want each piece to be different. I don't want them all to be like formulaic and it's just like a factory line. So I'm trying to be creative. And a lot of these paper pieces are so fun because what I'll do is I'll do them in a small form like this that's quick and easy. And then it inspires me. I love it so much that I'll make it into like a 9 foot by 6 foot, which has happened a couple of times. So yeah, so some of these people that buy these paper pieces, there's a 9 foot by 6 foot version of this in somebody's house as well. So yeah.
Love that. Well, have you ever used a calligraphy brush?
I have a couple, but they're pretty expensive. So what I have done.
But I started to collect them, and then I ran out of coffee table books to put them on and clients to give them to. So I'm gonna say,
I've bought wigs and cut the wigs down and wrapped them around a broomstick and drug those. So that's a much less expensive version.
I love that. And also what we were talking about earlier, because also your colors, because your collection, like I was going to say, you have a lot warm colors, and this is sort of a cool, at least for me getting to know you, like more of
there's cooler tones in it. Yeah. Yeah, I use a lot of warm tones.
Yeah, we have 2 coming up that are, you know, would be paired together very nicely. Actually, maybe we'll show two, but then I'll let you talk about this.
Yeah, that walnut stain that I use. So I'll take a rag and dip it in it. And a lot of the backgrounds, I'll wash the background. And I love the border that happens around it. It just gives it the piece a little bit room to breathe. And so I'll have this rag on my hand and then I'll reach for it. And I like to drag it across the piece and create almost these puzzle pieces, this interconnection of shapes that work together, because it does, again, this strié situation that adds texture and interest to the piece and how they all work together, these loose form shapes. Same umbrella of like fleshing out the series and making sure each piece is different from one another. They all inspire something. And if you look at like the big canvas pieces on the Instagram, each one of them have one of these elements running through them. It's just, trial and error, learning what works and what doesn't work. So.
Yeah, I love these.
I do too. Here, I'll put the other one up here. Sorry. I'm slow. I start listening and then I'm shirking on my duties here. Okay. That's a second.
This one's very similar to the one that we saw with the cool tones. The only thing that doesn't happen here is I don't go back over it with the latex that's the cooler white. So you don't get that chemical reaction between the two paints, between the oil and the latex. And obviously I started on the right and then drug where it was more relief on the left. And it's, again, about the texture, the interest that happens in the piece. Sometimes knowing when to stop and something being a little bit more simple has a beauty in it. So yeah, that's my biggest thing with my interiors is I kind of don't know when to stop. So all my tabletops are like full of stuff. So I'm trying to practice that not only in my art, but then in my own home as well. Just knowing when to stop. So there's a beauty in the simplicity of this.
The Southern way of designing, it's just more is more, you're collecting things, you're traveling. I think, this new, and all of your spaces are, you have modern pieces, you have traditional pieces, but they're very layered. And that's what I, strive to do in our interior so that it doesn't look like a catalog. It looks more editorial. And
exactly.
I think that's what you said. Same thing about layering your art, not having it all by the same artist. Even yourself, who is an artist, who could just have everything be yours, having other artists that you admire, and like the sculptural piece you have over your fireplace and all that, I think really important to layer.
Yeah, it's all about self-growth and knowing what works and what doesn't work. Yeah, for sure.
I think it's important. Everything has a story too, and that's why I love Untitled. I have more. If you come to we have a lot of stuff, but everything is sort of a piece that you collected, or a story, or somebody gave it to me, or this inspired me, and I love it. Anyway.
Yeah, surround the things with the things you love. Surround yourself with the things you love, for sure. So this plays under the textural aspect and grabbing things that are around me. So what you see, the white here is wall spackle. Obviously, I've renovated a lot of houses and have a lot of the products here at the house. So I grabbed that. And what I love about this, I believe we had this when Kevin and I made a coffee table. And we tried to make it look like plaster. Plaster breaks. This does not break because it bends. And so having that 3D aspect was really beautiful to me because the shadow situation that happens when you put the picture light on it. And it just gives it this 3D quality, this extra element to make it more interesting and pull people in. You can see how the negative and positive space play into this. You're heavier. And I do this with a lot of my paintings. The darker shapes are always at the top, and then it gets lighter at the bottom. So you have the heaviness at the top and the light airiness at the bottom. In order to balance that, I added the texture to the white shapes at the bottom because you've got the heaviness at the top. But yeah, just kind of framing it and putting the shapes in there, making the shapes interesting, also knowing when to stop. So yeah.
I think that's what you do so well, both in your interiors and your art, is it's not just about the forms you put there, but also the negative space. And that's what makes your art so appealing. And there's so many people right now on Instagram who are trying to be artists. A lot of them are trying to knock you off, and like they still don't hit it because it's about the negative space too, and juxtaposition. And I think that's what you do so well. And maybe it's from your interiors background and space planning and all that stuff, but it really shows through in your art.
Well, thank you. It's trial and error. If you see my interiors from way back when, there was a lot.
My own apartment in New York City, when one bedroom, and I think I painted a console like first I painted it pink, then I painted it gray. We found it on the side of the street because we had no money, and it was, you know.
Yeah, I did the same thing. The apartment, the walls, the floors, anything I could paint and dip in paint. And I still kind of do that now. So yeah, I'm like, why would I pay somebody when I can do it myself? And then I get halfway through it and I'm like, William, why have you not paid somebody to do this? Go to bed.
Every time I paint, I start painting a room.
Yeah,
exactly. I get halfway through it and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? So this also the juxtaposition between like the free form and then the stark shapes that happen. So the black oil-based paint is your heavy graphic element in this piece. And then the free form of the Jacobean glaze that I used on the background with the striae. And then a lot of my pieces of art I have a signature color, which is like this mustard yellow that I run through all of my pieces. I feel like that yellow has like the 70s vibe to it. I'm really big into like Givenchy and Bunny Melon right now. With my sunroom, I'm doing the whole brick washed, whitewashed walls, which kind of look like her studio, and the whitewashed floors and all the white upholstery. So this is kind of the idea that I was mindset wise of doing this piece. But yeah, this color to me is kind of an iconic color that works with any interiors. It's not too jarring. It complements the piece well on this sepia background. But yeah, the beautiful thing about these pieces that you're about to show for me are the stark black brush strokes that happen within them. So that's what I love about these.
Show all three of these because I do think that they would be, whoever buys them would most likely want them in a series. You know, we talked about putting them over a sofa, you know, to really cover a full, a large space.
It takes up a lot of wall square footage versus the painting behind you. It's you know, an investment piece, but you can buy 3 of these, make them over a sofa or a console. When you move and you don't have that big wall, you've got 3 pieces that can be utilized in 3 different spaces of the house. So yeah, there's a longevity in that, I think.
And this is the perfect size. You know, we see this size sell a lot with our art because it can go, you know, over a small console. It can go on a smaller wall in between window treatments. It's just a great accent piece that adds a lot of punch. And so when you put 3 together, you get more, you know, real estate.
and again,
I love the brush strokes in this one with that spill mark and the little drips, the story that tells. I love the shapes though, but the bold brush strokes with that little circle there, I think is so interesting and cool.
Can y'all see the sheen on this? What he's talking about, the Jacobean paint that he uses? Because I know our lighting here, oh, it's the death of me. But there we go. It's really interesting. And then he has the matte mustard color, and it really adds a lot of depth.
Yeah, that mustard is an oil stick, and then the black paint is an oil-based paint that's heavy, and then there's a glaze, which is the Jacobean. So a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
is there gray?
Yeah.
Oh, there is gray.
Well,
in
it's-
that
or
one.
just
Yeah,
lighter
you're right.
black.
Sort of a little like new, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then there's a third one.
And then this is the third.
That's my favorite with that little circle in it. The little apostrophe, colon.
Yeah. If you talk, we'll be able to see. If you keep talking and put it
Okay.
towards the screen, you can see.
Here we go.
Yeah, there's something so cool about the graphic nature of that circle with the drip that happens. It's about telling a little story. The more character you can put in the piece, the better. That's why I hate like brand new furniture versus antiques, because antiques tell a story with the little nips and crannies that are happening in it. There's an antique dealer here in Birmingham, and he refinishes all the pieces. And I'm like, you're ruining the story that's happening on it. Now it looks new. Like, I don't want it. I wanted it before you touched it.
Unless it's functionally, you know, needs to be replaced. I agree. You know, just having those, and it's the patina that makes it, you know, have the story. If y'all follow me on Instagram, you'll see that my son loves to draw on our furniture, and I just kind of
carrying a purple crayon.
he did with the Sharpie. He did it, and I just signed it, and I was like, you know what? I'll recover this one day, and maybe I'll give the chairs to him, and his wife will or partner will, you know, they'll want to change the fabric again, and they'll find that he drew on it during COVID 2020, and
Claim it.
and yesterday he started painting the other chair because I was showing him William, and you know, William, you got your fabric was on on back order, and so you just started painting your sofa. Is that the one in the studio?
I'll just paint the sofa white. Yeah. I mean, it's made more for looks. It's not for function. So yeah. So this piece plays into that same color story with like the 70s theme with these colors. I think these colors are very 70s with this like sepia background and this mustard yellow and the black shapes. But what this is kind of like how the shapes all relate together. So I did the mustard first and then added the black shapes. So they all kind of interconnect and tell a story. And when I'm doing these paper pieces, I just grab them and I start with one shape. You kind of know where your negative positive space. So it's like walking into a room, knowing where your sofa is and your chairs, but you just start working through it. And then you have to know when to stop. And so I added the shapes to this and then added that little bit of dribble to the top. And I was like, okay, I'm done. And then sometimes it doesn't work out and you have to paint over it and start over, but you don't know till you try. So yeah.
I was going to say, if you see it, almost looking on the screen, it looks like a little face up there, your dribble.
Yeah, the things people see in some of my paintings. Sometimes good things, sometimes bad things, but yeah.
Brothers, mothers, penises.
Well, and when I moved to San Francisco, I went to a consignment store and again, couldn't really afford nice art. So I found this piece and it was abstract and I liked the colors. And I put it in my apartment. And then I moved it to my apartment with my husband. And it was at the end of our dining table. And we were having a dinner table, or, a dinner party. And I looked behind him and I was like, that's an orgy.
Oh.
I was like, I've had this in all my rooms. And literally I said it out loud. Someone else was talking and I said it out loud. And then everyone was like, yeah, that is.
Oh, that's so
You're dining while everyone's at the table.
Yeah.
So,
Where's the painting now?
It's in our kitchen.
Where an orgy should be.
I
right?
still like the colors, but at least it's not like over someone's head during dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this piece, same background color situation, and being a little bit more simple on the side, no color in it except for the background color. But it's also about knowing your negative positive space and balancing out the painting. So you've got this shape that happens on the right with the striae that takes up the right hand side. And on the left hand side, I did almost this figure 9 where I drug the paintbrush around in a circle and then straight. And then it's kind of important, as you can see the brush lift off the paper, you get the striae thing that happens. That's important so you don't have a clean stop. To balance it all, I did this circle in the top left corner, which has structure to it. So you want some free form, you want some structure, and then did it with this open-ended shape to counterbalance the right. So it's I mean, a lot of people think I can do it, and then you've got this spill mark in the center, which is kind of interesting. But it's knowing like where your negative and positive space is, your balance, that's all important. And then knowing when to stop, and where to go and where the movement needs to fall. So yeah, that's kind of what this piece is about.
Oh, okay. This is another one of my favorites.
This one's cool.
So what I love about this is that it's slightly darker paper, kind of more of a caramel. And you have black, and then you did a different white paint that obviously there's like a chemical reaction going on. So
yeah, that's like working through these pieces is figuring out things that work or don't work together. And I love the way that this oil-based black paint reacts with the latex that's over it, because it does this situation that happens here where it almost shrinks in from itself and starts to show the background color coming through because it's resisting the oil base that's on the back. But there's an interesting thing that happens here with the texture. But this is similar to the ones that we saw with the bold black shapes that are happening in the free form in the background. It's the other way around here. Your bold shapes are in the background with the brush stroke, and your free form is the white in the front. So it's just playing with color and balance. So yeah, that's what that's kind of about.
Do you frame this one, William?
If I frame this one, same thing, I would put it on that foam core to raise it up off of the mat itself. I typically do a linen mat because I don't want the frame to take away from the piece. So typically my frames are a little bit understated. If you have a really modern piece of art that's clean and simple, then I might do a gaudier frame. Other way around, if you have something that's a little bit more engaging, then you want the frame to breathe a little bit and it'll be a little bit more simple so they're not fighting each other. But I would do foam core on this, and then I would probably do a linen background because the painting itself is so dark. So I would do a linen background that's dark in a shadow box is what I would probably do with either a white frame or a whitewashed frame that's almost like a bleached oak or something like that. I think would be beautiful in this.
That would be beautiful.
Yeah.
Love it.
Oh,
I love these. These
I
two,
love
and I like
that.
these two. And I almost, even with this one next to it.
So what are we calling this yellow? This is the
This is like a marigold, I would say.
marigold.
Yeah. So same thing. I'm obviously very inspired by like Bunny Mellon. She's got this Rothko that has this yellow story that happens in it. So I'm obviously inspired by Cy Twombly, but this has this border that runs around it. It has this etching thing that happens, which adds texture to the piece that is obviously inspired by Cy Twombly. You have to be very careful as an artist that you're not inspired too much by something. So I try to draw a clean line between the two. But yeah, so then what I did was I did the background with the little pencil etching, and like the paint kind of bled into it a little bit. So it kind of blurred it a little bit. And then I added this white shape to the bottom because you need those stark shapes to go with the free form. And then this little yellow circle, and then this barely brown situation that's happening down here. So it kind of has like this 70s vibe that happens to it with this color story, I think, at least. But yeah.
After you said the Rothko and the Twombly, like that's exactly what I see. I see the yellow Rothko and then the Twombly, you know, lines. And it's funny, Meredith, both times she's come in, I'm not Catherine, both times you've come in, you've worn yellow.
I don't know what it is.
Like, why don't you wear yellow in your store?
But I should be wearing mustard. I wore yellow yesterday and I wore yellow today.
But, you know, I want people to come to my store and feel happy with all the colors that we have and your paintings. And I think this piece is just such a stunner. You know,
I love for any type of, and I love it. You're going to talk about that color yellow, which is actually next. Here, if you take
like Indian yellow.
Yeah, or something else, but
yeah. So Kevin, who has a 4-year degree in sculpture and went to the School of Charleston, who works for me, basically told me about this color. And they used to feed, I believe, ox, right, Kevin? Cows, mangos. And they would use their urine because it would be so saturated with this color. And that's where a lot of the color comes from. Not this one. So yeah, they've used that as a reference point, but not that method anymore. So what I did was I did the color first, and I wanted it peeking through the drips that are happening. I added this solid shape of the circle up here to the left-hand corner, and then kind of took the piece of paper as the ink was on it and then kind of tilted it over and over again, and then down towards the front and towards the bottom. So this veining texture thing with these drips happened all over the surface of the painting, just to make it interesting, to give that texture thing happening. So it was more characteristics, not as boring, not predictable. I wanted it to be kind of outside the box and not look like the other pieces. So adding a different element than the other pieces. And then I always do like something quirky or different to the piece. So there's this random shape that's kind of coming off of the side of the top up there. So yeah, that's kind of the story about this piece.
Yeah, I'm going to show this a little closer because you can tell that's what you did. You tilted the paper to have it all. And drips are hard, you know, that you can't predict them. So
I didn't want to go off of the piece necessarily. I wanted it to be them with and inside the paper.
Love that.
I do too. I like them actually together. I love both of those. Now we get these are great. These I like you talking about these.
Okay, yeah. So I am not formally trained in art. So the way that I trained myself was I started, looking at still lifes or portraits or landscapes, and that's how I taught myself. I did a lot of portraits in the beginning, and they're very time consuming and can be very stressful. So I don't do a lot of them anymore, but they're my mom's favorite and a lot of other people. So usually the things that you don't think are going to sell the best are usually the first things to go. So I try to think outside the box and have fun when I do these paper pieces. So portraits are starting to play into it. So this one kind of, and Margaret said it too, it kind of reminds me of my mom. She's got these tortoiseshell glasses, and she's got kind of a little bob situation going. But it also kind of plays into George Washington a little bit. So I took the rag that I used with this Chequeout stain, and then kind of did the rough outline of the brow and the nose and where the mouth would go, and then like his little what do you call the fluff thing that's like right there?
The ruffle, like on the neck.
The thing, and then did the lapels, and then added the swoop for the hair. And just kind of made it interesting. Yeah, I'm just having fun with these when I do these portraits.
When I pulled this out, I was like, I wonder if this is his mom. And
yeah, it does look like her.
Side note, I love your relationship with your mom. For anyone who doesn't follow him on Instagram, being a mom of a little boy that, owns my world. And I hope that when he grows up that we have the relationship that you have, because it is just, I want to have a little farm and have my mom come, me come over and help him with his goats and birthing coats and, travel together. And I just love that.
Yeah, big mama. You only have one mama, for sure.
I realized though that I just assumed you're an only child because y'all are so close. But then you told me you have brothers. And now I just know that you're the favorite.
I'm just the favorite. Exactly. Yeah. I'm the one that gets her the best Christmas gifts.
Right.
And since I only have one child, I do think that they're favorites of children because I only have one, but So
backstory, I've got 3 younger brothers. So these are the 3 younger brothers. Yeah, this would be Colin, I would think. But no, this is also like doing the portrait. You can see where I obviously had my hands on the rag and did the rough outline and then dabbed it for the hair on the top and then used the paint that was on my fingers to make where the eyes would go. And it's just like having fun with it, not being so serious. And again, fleshing out your art, making sure the series looks different from one piece to the next and trying new things, That's what a lot of these paper pieces are about. Me experimenting with colors, me experimenting with materials and trying different techniques. And then when I find something I love, it becomes, the next series of art, the paintings, the strié, the brush strokes with the broom, I would have known that till I tried that on these paper pieces. So yeah, okay, these are just kind of quirky.
Are you the oldest or young? Where do you fall in the birth order?
I'm the oldest. And then, so I'm 37 and then there's a 36 and then there's a 30 and then there's a 28. Yeah.
And are they all as cute as you?
No, it goes downhill for me.
Yeah, I'm the youngest, and I like to say they saved the best for last.
Yeah.
Luckily, none of our siblings have checkout or are on this call. So
my brother's and my brother who is
I've got your back, Lauren, if you're on the call. I got your back.
Well, definitely try to say that he.
Well, you are the cutest girl, right? The favorite. No, you can't say that.
No, I can't say that. It's more just a competition with my brother and I because we're just super competitive. But he is super successful and super good looking and a great person. And so is my sister. We are all very different. Okay, so brother,
which is probably the 30-year-old. That's who I would say this probably is. Strong nose. You can see where I used the rag to do the brush and then added with my finger the little detail of where the nostril is and the lips. And it's just, again, just playing with these things, trying things that are different. Yeah, you can look back at some of the portraits that I did and they were super serious. So I love the fun aspect of these. They kind of work together, 3 as a group. But yeah, I have some of these in my house. And then some of my original work, but it's about fleshing out your series of art in your house. I think there's a fun quirkiness to these. So.
And I know you're saying, have different artists in your home and whatever, but even just within these pieces, we have portraits, we have, bold colors, subtle colors, the multimedia, so many different elements that, if someone weren't to know, especially these pieces and know your work so well, these to me don't feel like a William McLure, but I love them and I also love the looseness of them and the abstract, I'm sure your brothers know like that.
All the same color story.
Yeah. And then I like your third brother, the
yeah.
little one.
The best for last, right?
Last. You should show that one. The sheen on that one is different also.
Yeah, it's super serious. It took a long time to dry. So that's that Jacobean oil stain that's on it. And then I went over it, I let it spill, and then I did the drip all over it for texture and interest. And then I went through it with the white oil-based, it's almost like a stick of butter. They're kind of fun to use, and did the eyes and the nose, and you can see where the big lips are. And it was so wet and took so long to dry that it kind of bled in. So I had to go back 3 different times and reapply the eyes and the nose and the mouth. And it's just something different, something unexpected. People come up to it. And it's also I think I see a face. Do I see a face? Is it there? People see different things. But yeah, I really wanted there to be an underlying face happening in this one. Just different than the other pieces, trying stuff. Because you never know what's going to happen. You never know the way the paint's going to dry. So this is Elliot with his big lips. So
you always put this behind glass or not?
I would put this behind glass. I typically use a lot of plexiglass in my pieces, because I'm extremely impatient. So I don't take a lot of time to put nails on the wall. And a lot of the times at night, I feel like somebody has broken a window and broken into the house, and I have 9 minutes to get my knife out from underneath the mattress. No, it's a painting that fell off the wall because I didn't put the nail in right. So yeah, I use a lot of plexiglass for that very reason. So
well, if the one behind me falls, I hung that yesterday.
Ooh.
We typically have that one up in the front. And when we get to it, I'll tell you why. But last of the paper pieces, unframed paper pieces, is this must be William.
yeah.
William told us that he works out every day at 2 p.m. with the trainer. So we just assume that this is your self-portrait.
Me in one more year. Yeah. No, but this is also like thinking outside the box, trying different things. Books are like what I use for inspiration as far as interiors, my own interiors, and then as far as art. So I have one TV. I bought it a year ago. I don't really use it. I don't know how to work it. You can ask Kevin. Electronics are not my thing. So books are my thing. And there's a Greek mythology book here that's based on these Roman statues. And so I pulled what I thought was a very beautiful piece, obviously being a gay man, out of the book and then attached it to the painting. And there's like little pieces of tape on it. And then tried to finish what I thought was the rest of the photograph coming off of the paper and just making it a little bit more interesting. It's all about like trying something different, what works and what doesn't work. So yeah, that's what that piece is about.
He's holding a shield.
He's holding a shield, yes. And I would imagine a saber in the other hand or something like that.
Okay. Without knowing the Greek sculpture context, I was trying to figure out what was going on, but I love it.
Yeah.
And I just could focus on that. But
You know, right. The exact same thing. I kept focusing on
I'm
that.
like,
And then
I'm just looking at this and I'm not looking at that.
Yeah.
But now
Now
I
I'm looking at that. Okay.
It's something different.
Yeah.
love it.
I love it.
Okay.
Next frame.
So the frame drawing.
So color is kind of hard for me just because my interiors are always changing. So when I do something in color, I try to use all the same color story because it's simple, and then that way it kind of jives with any interior. So this is basically like a peacock teal and a blue mixed together with a charcoal that's done on the piece of paper and almost that Cy Twombly feeling that's happening with the sketching. And then what I do is I wet a rag with mineral spirits and kind of wash it down. So you get that color story that happens in the center of the square. When I did that, a lot of the pieces play into this texture story that happens. So this is about a layering story that happens on this piece. So you get the mat in the background, you get the piece of papers that the art is on, you get this wash that's happening. And then I went over that with a piece we saw previously. There was a painting that was done on this almost caramel colored paper. That's what this paper color is. And then I cut a hole out in the center, made it light blue in the background, so it's the same color story that's happening, and then shoved this black shape that I cut out in, so it's peeking through. And then I finished what I would think would be that shape with the charcoal pencil that went around the edge. And it's just, you know, it's just thinking outside the box, not being so formulaic, trying something different, trying something new, making it interesting. And when somebody comes up to this, there's going to be like, they'll get up there and they'll realize, wait, this is a shape of paper that's coming through another shape that's on a piece of paper, and it's just making it interesting, thinking outside the box, trying different things.
And I love the color, the kind of Aegean, you know, it's not.
Yeah, it's a really pretty color.
Turquoisey. It's just a really beautiful color.
Yeah.
So we framed this one. This is the other framing option that people can add on. Wait, where? Y'all see?
Actually, yeah, Meredith, I was going to say, take off the, if you can, take off the share screen so you can see Maggie, Margaret.
Yeah, I love that silver fillet that runs around the outline of the frame. That's really pretty.
Black, and you're right. It's not black and gold. It is a true kind of tea leaf gold leafing. So Edicule across the street is the framer, and he does all like gold leafing all himself. Makes the frames. He brings things over from Europe, and it's just beautiful. This is his definitely more subtle modern frames. He does just some beautiful work. So we have this option as well, that after you buy your pieces, you can add the framing if you want, or you can do your own framing when you get your pieces.
I like the space he did around it. I think too many people get the frame too close to the art, and it looks like Hobby Lobby, lack of a better word. And I love you've got that bit of breath between the frame and the piece itself, enough for it to like breathe a little bit. I think he did a really great job at that.
He does. He also makes mirrors like with my tortoise shell. He does just incredible things.
This one?
No.
Okay, so now we're going to move into the canvas paintings that we've had a lot of interest on Instagram, and I keep telling everyone you can't buy it till this event. So this is the smaller one, but this is again that Eve Klein blue that you use. Yeah, I'm going to show you the texture because we've been having this at the front of the store, right at the door, and I've had to wash my windows so much because people just like put their face, you know, even though it's COVID, up against to see this. And then we get, you know, so many emails and calls about this one. So it is officially for sale, but I will let William tell you a little bit more.
Yeah, so kind of got same story, this storefront right here, but we've got this Medusa head. So we have to constantly wash the window because there's like people looking in, and we've had people try to buy it and I'm like, it's not for sale. I'm sorry. But that's kind of the same thing. I had this Yves Klein blue, and a lot of my paintings, I like them to tell the same color story. So this is all about the Yves Klein blue here and using the different hues of it, which make the shapes. And then you've got the free form in the background. And it's just about this texture story that's happening and all these little like details that come into it together. Sometimes you have to walk away from them. So this one, I had to walk away from it a couple of times because when you're using one product, you kind of get in the zone of using that all over it. So you have to step away, breathe a little bit, and then go find like a charcoal pencil or like this white outline situation that happens here, because you don't want it, again, to look so formulaic or like predictable. So you try to think outside the box and do a bunch of different little stories and details that happen in it. And usually like, I'll just get in the zone and like just start doodling, and like you can see little names written in it and little stories, or like there's a grocery list somewhere. So yeah, it's just kind of having fun and knowing like when to stop. So yeah, I love this piece because it's so graphic with the color. So it's all about the Yves Klein blue. So yeah, when I messaged Margaret, we were going back and forth about the pieces that she wanted to, this is one of the ones that she had selected, but it's a huge like 9-foot by 6-foot painting that I did in this blue. And remember, I think I did my Christmas tree. So I did my whole theme that year was this Yves Klein blue. So I painted all my own like Christmas balls and did this blue velvet ribbon that ran through the tree. And then right next to the tree is this huge 9-foot by 6-foot Yves Klein blue painting that's exactly like this. And it was really cool. Yeah.
Love that.
That's fantastic.
And you can tell that you took a lot of time with this one because there are so many layers. And I think that's what makes it so dynamic, not just the color, but the layers. And yeah, there was definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah, it was very cool in the space. I loved it.
One of these things that like, I mean, you appreciate it so much when you actually see it, because I can see the texture, you know, and this
I
one,
want to see the name.
I would just leave as is. Yeah.
The most electric blue in it is that electric blue that's that Yves Klein, and it's a gouache. And I don't think on this, you're not going to be able to appreciate it until whoever buys it in person can see it, because it has a matteness to it that is almost like that black 4.0 where you can't see any depth to it. It's a really cool blue. I love it. I'm obsessed with it.
So let me ask, Meredith, I didn't see the dimensions and price on the QR code when you did it. Do you want us to share that?
Is that 30 by 40?
Yeah.
What's the price on that? Do you guys know, Justin? We're pulling it up. I think it was a later edition. It was so
we were just going to do your paper pieces, yeah. And then we added these.
We twisted your arm to add this one. It's coming. We can put the.
It's on my phone too.
Well, you know what you could always do is put up the QR code again. And I can practice. Anybody can unmute themselves. They can scan it.
No.
So typically what happens when I get in these things, I work a lot better at night because there's no phone calls or text messages. We've gotten in trouble with our landlord because I play music loud at night. So I guess the 22 people that are participating will know we are probably about to move to a new location, which is 13,000 square feet. So it's going to be amazing. We can move from project to project. So when I do these pieces, I don't like to leave them. I don't like to stop something because it's kind of like putting together an outfit. you're in the mode, you're doing it. And when you stop and you like go to sleep at night and your whole mind is in a different mindset. So I typically like to do these all at once. So I'll start in the morning when I get here. And then by nighttime, I'm usually either done or I know what the next step is. And so it'll be a drying time or something like that. And I'll come back and do it in the morning. But patience is not a virtue that I have. So when I'm ready to do something, I'm ready to do it from start to finish right then. Sometimes when I frame these, the paint's not even dry yet. And when we ship them sometimes, but we've gotten better about that. I have to be patient and breathe. Sometimes when they're leaving, I'm like, hold on, let me sign the bottom before it leaves, or like, let me spray this and set it real quick. But yeah, I know in my head when I start something where I want it to go. So I already see the formula and like the steps and like where the end product. The interior designs kind of know the end product visualizing the end product of the room when it's done. And it's the same way with the art too, for me. I know where I want it to go. So
it's just getting like explaining it to the client and just getting their trust to know that you know what.
That's the hard part. Yes.
And you just gotta take that leap of faith. That's the hardest part.
Yeah.
And yeah. So
usually I'm like, go ahead. Usually I'm like, if you don't like it, I'll just buy it back, you know?
So seriously, I buy, well, okay, per my contract, it says just because you change your mind, I'm not going to buy it back. But anything that I produce, I love so much that I end up, keeping or buying it back. My husband says he can't get attached to anything in our house because it's a revolving door that either I'm going to sell it to a client or something from a client's going to come in. And so he's like, unless it has a heartbeat, I don't get attached.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Everything's got a price tag on it for sure.
This piece is, you're going to put it, is $72.50.
And it's 30 by 40. Okay. Right. Now we will move the camera so we can fully see this beauty. So this is the other perfect painting. So tell us about this guy, William, because I know this is one of your most popular looks.
Yeah, this is our bread and butter. So this is a 72 by 60, so 6 feet by 5 feet. So it's 5 feet tall by 6 feet wide. And this is our bread and butter. We get a lot of this. So I have a name that I call every painting, every genre, decor painting. And we call this one the cupcake because it's a white cupcake with sprinkles of color over it. And so I think it was probably 3.5 years ago, a designer in New York, Alyssa Caputo, kind of commissioned something that was very similar to this. It was a much more like watered down, simplistic version. And I wanted to put my own spin on it. So I did the warmer background, she had a lighter background, and then did these pops of color that run through it. The beautiful thing about this piece, and Margaret said the same thing, was that the longevity that this piece has in any interior that you move it to, I think it's got these little pieces of color that run through it that could speak well to any room, no matter what the color story might be. Another point that she made was that it doesn't compete with other art. It's got its own genre, it's simplistic in form, it's interesting, it's got texture, but you don't have these bold shapes that are happening in it that might be jarring. You don't have these bold color choices that are happening. It's just all around, for me, a simplistic, good, stable piece for any interiors, and that's why we do a lot of it. A lot of people are not able to take huge, bold, jarring steps for like their art or their interiors. And I think this marries both worlds together where it has a simplicity to it and an elegance, but also has something quirky and interesting to it with these little pops of color that run through it. So I think it speaks well to both parties or both worlds. Yeah.
No, I think it has, especially when you do it in the larger scale, it encompasses the room, a big space, without competing with whatever furniture you have going on. You can add those pops of color. I gave you a general color story for our store that we have pinks and greens and marigolds and other things in and out. But like you said, I don't want to match everything to the store, just like you wouldn't for a room. And so you can see you put some orange and ox blood and Aegean and other elements, and so that anyone's room, whether they have no color, whether they have one of these colors, it's going to work with it, and like you said, not compete with other bold art that you have.
Yeah.
it's an easier thing to, you know, when as a designer, we are trying to convince clients to like take bold risks, and especially with a bigger piece of art, they want something that they know is going to be beautiful, but not, you know, overpowering. So I think you do, you know, so well with these.
Got it in this traditional space on that wallpaper, and then we have one that's very similar in our space that's in this like very kind of like clean white modern thing, and this is a more like simplistic version. But yeah, no, it works with like any interior, whether it's modern or traditional. That's what I love about it, and obviously you do that so well, so that's part of the secret.
That's why we're married so well together. So yes, this was so fun.
Was really fun.
And if you want any of the pieces framed, if on the app there are the 2 framing options. Shipping is included. We ship, you know, in the price. If you're in San Francisco and you want it delivered, we will deliver. Yeah.
It was great. I know there are a couple of questions. It's hard now to maybe on possible commission type stuff. I know some of the pieces have been sold, and including 2 that I wanted. So somebody was texting me to go, "Was those sold?" And I go, "I think they were," but so we'll follow up. I guess any commissions we follow up. It looks like there's a chat. I can't see that far, but it looks like also chat's coming out.
So how are the large pieces shipped? So we use, and we have sent Margaret the contact that we use. We have been through a lot of shipping situations. We used U-Ship at one point. People were showing up in horse trailers in minivans, and I'm like, that 10-foot by 6-foot painting will not fit in a minivan. And they were like, well, I asked my friend who knows numbers, and I'm like, everyone in America knows numbers. Like a 10-foot by 6-foot does not, you don't need to ask anybody that knows numbers, like it won't fit. So we now have our own shipper, Jamie, who goes to the West Coast and the East Coast probably once a month. And he's a super sweet guy, very humble, family guy who comes to the farm. I get in my bathtub a lot of nights and have a glass of wine and buy shit off Cherish. So he's always going across the country to pick up a sofa or a chair or something like that. It's blanket wrapped is what we do. He shows up, he blanket wraps it, and he brings it into your home. He's a super nice guy. We don't hang it just because that opens a whole different genre of insurance liability for us, but he'll bring it to the house and he's super helpful. So.
And he is actually so this is why designers can't share their sources, because I've already stolen it from you to bring a dresser from Georgia for a client. So he will be in California in 2 weeks. So we can send these guys wherever they need to go, the big pieces.
That's perfect. I was in the bathtub last night, found 2 Varellin chairs that are in California. And so now that I know he's going to be there, like I'll just jump him. I'll just put him on the thing and he'll bring him back. So good. Perfect.
If you ever want to sell those, Suzanne Reinstein chairs, you know, when you're
right, yeah.
I need stuff that my son can Sharpie on.
Oh, that's so cute. Somebody just also asked, are all the pieces going on the app at the end? Yes, they are. So if it's been sold, it will say sold out. And if you have any questions, you can always email us and we'll forward them to Margaret and William. And
William, do you want to tell them about the commission, how to do it through me?
Yeah, so we have done the same thing for ourselves. And so this is the first time we're doing the checkout thing, but it does kind of suck sometimes because you put stuff in your cart and it sells. And when we're doing it on our website, same thing. We did not know it. We know it now. If you don't pay for it, it's gone. So we've had to do commissions. So yeah, if anybody wants to do a commission off something that they really love that's gone, just email Margaret or Chequeout, and you'll go through Margaret and she'll facilitate the commission process and we can do it. It's not a big deal. One of the things that I will mention is I don't just paint it and you get it and that's it. I want you to be happy. I want to be happy with it. So you get about 2 sets of changes. With some of the shapes, we can control it. We can change colors, things like that. So yeah, it's a pretty easy process. It's pretty straightforward.
But they're all a little different because I know, like the come day, as a couple of people were like, I wanted that, and including me, it will all be, and I think that's part of what's kind of fun. It's like what you liked about it, what you don't. They're all going to be different, so don't think it's going to be exactly the same because you're not cookie cutter. It's not. Yeah, like, that's what you've always said. Everything's a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. But anyway, yeah, all the pieces are listed on the Chequeout app right now, so you can look and shop.
Well, thank you, William, and
thank you.
Thank y'all.
I want a glass of wine and a bath now.
Cheers.
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 Take care.
Bye.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Bye.